if you knew that at the end of this conversation you were going to die, how would you have the conversation? Imagine that some evil genie came and said, I'm going to let you know, I have a secret to tell you. This is your last day. But if you change anything in your calendar, anything you plan to do, 1 minute, then you'll be dead instantly. So you just have to go through your day doing exactly the things that you had planned to do, no matter how trivial, and you cannot reorganize your day. What you do during those times, it's up to you. How would you live through that experience? Everything would be a miracle. Everything would be the last chance, the last opportunity to express your value, to show care, to show love. I guarantee that day would be very different.
My guest today is Fred Kofman, MIT professor, former senior leadership coach at Google and LinkedIn, and the author of best-selling business books such as The Meaning Revolution and Conscious Business. In the episode, we talked about leadership, stoicism, and the meaning of life. Fred absolutely amazed me with how he connects the dot between various and apparently different topics and presents a new, fresh perspective to life and how to find meaning in it. Just before the episode starts, I want you to know you have a unique opportunity to apply to a year-long scholarship of the Hoffman-Kofman Leadership Program. I participated in this year-long program, and I can share with you from my experience that this was one of the most transformative programs I was ever part of. A link for you to apply is in the description. Please note, only apply if you meet the qualification criteria. I'm Shlomi Chaster, and you're listening to Mindset. Hello, Fred, and welcome to the Mindset podcast.
Hello, what a pleasure to be with you.
So it's completely my pleasure. I really want to thank you for having this privilege to talk to you about Stoic philosophy, and I think we're going to have an amazing conversation about this topic.
We'll do our best.
So whenever I think about Stoic philosophy and other people that have adopted the Stoic philosophy to their life, I'm always curious about the way that they embraced this philosophy to their life, at what stage of their life it happened, and what made them stick with it, because we're familiar with so many ideas, especially these days. So do you remember your first encounter?
Yes. I didn't know it was Stoic philosophy when I found it, but it was through reading Man in Search of Meaning, Viktor Frankl's great book. And it took many years. This is probably when I was in my mid-20s, but it took another, I'd say, I'm embarrassed to say 30 years to discover that it was Stoic philosophy, because I hadn't studied Stoic, or I hadn't encountered the Stoics as such. I read derivative works from many other people that were grounded in Stoic philosophy. There's a famous phrase from Keynes that says, Lord Keynes was a great economist, that says, whenever you think you're being original, you're regurgitating the thoughts of some dead philosopher. So I read a lot of books that impressed me, starting with Man in Search of Meaning. And then I wrote my book, Conscious Business, and someone told me, oh, it's great Stoic philosophy. I was like, well, thank you, but I don't even know what Stoic philosophy is. I said, oh, you should read something. So I started reading Stoicism. And when I read Stoicism, my first reaction was a shock of embarrassment, because I thought, wow, people are going to think I plagiarize it, because I didn't quote any Stoic philosophers, but I quoted my non-original sources, meaning the people that probably, if I look in their bibliography, they would have the Stoic philosophers in it. But I didn't know. I didn't look for secondary sources. I was using those books, and I thought, oh, these books are great. I quoted them. I gave credit and all that, but I never went all the way back to the source, which was the Stoic philosophy. So with great embarrassment, I started devouring everything that I could put my hands and my eyes on. And it was very touching and I would say transformative to go to the source and read what the original Greek and Roman Stoics had written. So that's how it started. It took it was a 30-year love affair without knowing my partner.
That's a great way to describe it. And my next question, I think you already pointed out, but my next question would be, why did you decide to make it a part of your life? But maybe I can already guess by what you said, because I think you find a truth that is already resonating with you in that very distilled truth. Is that the case?
That's the case, but if I can expand on resonate, it wasn't just an intellectual resonance. It was a very practical resonance. I come from Argentina. I lived through some very dark times, and I was quite, I would say, traumatized by some of the things that happened in my childhood. Politically, there was a dirty war, terrorist attacks against, Jews amongst many, but particularly Jews, and I was under threat. So I was a child, and it left a deep impression in me. So this sense of vulnerability, of being at the mercy of great forces outside of my control, when there's nothing I can do, and yet they could destroy me, was kind of a looming shadow in my life. It was there always. This can happen, in a sense of doom, that, what can I do? And when I read Viktor Frankl, it was a shock, because he says that the first and last freedom, the one no one can take away, is your choice on how to respond to circumstances, not the circumstances themselves. And he said that also another concept that touched me was that you choose your destiny at the soul level. And you can't really, very often or many times, you cannot change the reality or the real environment, but you can always change yourself, and you can give meaning to the environment that you find yourself in, even if you can't fix it. But being present, witnessing, and having a choice is such a meaning-giving activity that it fulfills the deepest thirst of every human being, which is not power, not wealth, not fame, but meaning. And it's possible to live a meaningful life in the worst circumstances. And he even says a lot of the great heroes did not survive. The best of us didn't survive, but they didn't die in defeat. And that was a very hopeful philosophy to me, that it's possible. There's a philosophy that will allow you to succeed even in death. I called it the death-proof philosophy. In fact, I wanted to call my second book Death-Proof Leadership. They didn't allow me to. I said, we don't publish the book. If you put that title, we won't publish the book. So I called it The Meaning Revolution. But there's the meaning like Viktor Frankl's meaning. And it's a revolution that the most important gift or the most important benefit you get out of any company, even from an economic perspective. I'm an economist, and people think economics is about money. And that's completely wrong. Economics is about improving your life. It's about how to make decisions that bring your life where you want it to be. For most people, it's material at certain level, so they pursue material objectives. But the ultimate goals of a good life are spiritual. They're not, you can be very miserable with all the money in the world, as many of the current tycoons illustrate. So you can see lots of examples of people that live in abject misery with tremendous wealth. So what good is that? If I have to choose between being myself and choosing my life of meaning versus being tremendously wealthy, like some people I just happen to know, I mean, it's not even a question. I cut my right arm not to be them. I'd rather be me without my arm than to be them. So, as the Beatles said, you cannot buy love, you cannot buy meaning. And a life of meaning can be lived in spite of any difficult circumstances. I call that the good news. But then there's the better news. And the better news, this is following the Stoic principles, is that in the worst circumstances is where you get the best chance to express your values. When, one thing is to be generous when it doesn't matter to you. The other thing is to be generous when it takes a lot, when it's taxing, it's demanding. Or another, I ask people sometimes in my programs, what are the qualities you admire in others? And one that often comes is resilience. And then I ask them, what do you need to show resilience? If you want to be the person you admire, how do you show resilience? What do you need? Well, you need to fail. Because if you don't fail,
there's nowhere to bounce back from.
Exactly. So you need opposition. And I like a meme that I invented, which is friction gives you traction. So when I'm in a difficult place or challenged or feeling the temptation to let my guard down or get depressed about the world or about things that are happening that are painful, I always ask myself, what is the value that I can express in the face of this circumstance that will make me proud when I look in the mirror? And I can say that's a question that always has a practical answer. How do I change it? The really important things that I care about in this world, I am baffled. I have no idea. I feel defeated when I think about that. When I think, how do I express my values in the face of insurmountable odds? I feel triumphant. I can do that. I can do, and not only that, but it's almost giddying. It's like, yeah, bring it on. Like, okay, make it harder. I want to see how much can I withstand to look in the face of horror and keep my cool and stay centered, stay focused, and be just, be good, be free, be loving. Those things are possible. So that was the resonance. It wasn't only the theory, but it was the consequences of the theory. Kurt Lewin, a social psychologist, said there's nothing more practical than a good theory. And the Stoics have a very good theory, a very good philosophy, because it becomes immediately practical.
This is something that I can really relate to, because it's nice to think about philosophy or maybe to talk about it. There's something intellectual about it, but on the day-to-day, I can totally relate to this fact. For me, understanding that this 2,000-year-old philosophy is something that is super relevant today, and it's also very surprising how much the psychology and the emotion of people is pretty much the same. Like, we have all this technology and all this advancement. People worried about the same things. Marcus Aurelius didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, and he just had to remind himself, you need to do the work of a human being. You're here to serve. And I'm like, okay, it's like, it's the same. It's the same. So understanding how much of the psychology and the emotion is the same, and also how much practical is it, especially in times of adversity, in finding meaning, as those two pillars that you mentioned that are very significant for you, is something that I really found, okay, this is really useful also for me and for my life, to stay grounded. And, you talked about living up to our values, especially when it's hard. So I don't see this as an adversity, as you mentioned, but for me, last year, we built our values as part of the program that we did. And I put family at the top, because I remember that this is one thing that we usually take for granted. And then we do our career, and we do this and we do that. And we, sometimes for some people, family is something that is on the side. Like, I'll do my thing. And I decided that I don't want to live like this. I don't want to remember that I have kids when I'm retired and then we're separated. So I put it as a top value for me. And now we have a newborn. He's 2 months old. And our career is evolving and a lot of things are happening, but I made a decision. I made a conscious decision that I'm going to spend time with my family. And facing, living it, meaning being at home, assisting with everything that is needed, putting things that are not super important aside at this time is something that without understanding why I am doing it, I would probably be super frustrated because it's very hard at this stage of life, staying at home, assisting with everything, but understanding that it comes from a place of meaning. This is what I chose. This is how I show my values, and sticking with it is something that really helps me at this day. So it's a very different story, but it connects in this aspect.
Beautiful. Yes.
So I want to ask you, you already talked about the practicality of this theory, and we live in a very hectic time. Everything is changing super fast. A lot of things are unpredictable, and we don't really know what's going to happen next. And there's something in the Stoic philosophy that can help us dealing with this uncertainty and keeping our composure in the face of this unpredictability. So I would like to know how do you see it?
Well, the first line of the Enchiridion, Epictetus manual, which is called the first significant, at least as I understand, the first Stoic book, is the most important thing in life is to distinguish what is within your control and what is outside of your control. That's a absolutely fabulous rock on which to build your temple.
It's deceptively simple, right? It's like, is it in my control? It sounds super simple and so powerful at the same time.
It has unbelievable implications. Let's talk about some obvious ones, and then let's push and talk about something nobody talks about. No Stoic philosophy. I'm going to push Stoic philosophy into non-dual Advaita Indian philosophy.
Let's go.
It's they have an incredible connection. So the one that is obvious and very important is what matters in life is how you handle the things that are under your control. Now, in some areas, it's absolutely obvious. You wouldn't feel embarrassed because it rained. Sometimes, I travel a lot, and sometimes people say, I'm sorry about the weather. And I mean, it's a nice thing to say, but it sounds preposterous. Why would you be sorry? But they're saying, well, it's by country, and the country didn't give you a good weather. I mean, it's pure bullshit. I mean, but it's a nice bullshit. It's like,
it comes from a good place.
Yes, like apologize for the heat, or apologize that it's cloudy, or apologize that it's rain. But we all know it's ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You don't apologize for the weather. You're not responsible for the weather. And yet, people can get depressed about the weather, or they can feel down about the weather. And that is less obviously preposterous. I mean, the weather is what is. And some people take it personally. Why did it have to rain on my birthday? No, it didn't rain on your birthday. Your birthday happened to coincide with the time it rained, but that is nothing. I mean, there's no implication. So being angry about that, or being angry because, the government wants to pass a measure that you disagree with. Well, they're doing what they're doing. I mean, it's okay. You can feel the anger because it betrays your values, but don't take it personally. It's out of your control. So that's the biggest portion of the world is what's outside of control. Most things we have very little control about. Let's say 99% of things are outside of control.
But we are a control freak society. We want to control more things. Maybe I'm overgeneralizing.
No, but there's a difference between what is and what you want. So I don't have a problem with wanting to control more. I think it's human desire to make a better life. So you build a house because you want to control the weather around you. You don't want to live outside. You would die. You eat because you want to control the hunger that you feel, your need. And those are totally perfectly fine things to do. The problem is when you start blaming reality for not being the way you want it to be, and getting upset with reality as if it should be the way you want it to be. This should, it's almost like a theological should. God should organize things better. If I were running this universe, I would know how to do it much better than this.
It would never rain on someone's birthday.
It would never rain on someone's birthday, exactly. And there wouldn't be any mosquitoes in the summer. And the water would always be cool and not too hot. And blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I have a million improvement ideas for reality. And so does everybody. But instead of saying, okay, what is there for me to do to improve my experience of reality, which is a doable thing, it's much easier to become victimized and say, I am a victim of forces that are unrelated to me, so those things should change. And then victimhood becomes a comfortable place from which to yell at everything and everybody, because you don't have the right to do that. And we live in a world, in a culture that has totally been corrupted into victimhood. It's an industry. Everybody wants to feel victimized because that gives you the right to complain, the right to be upset, the right to blame. Every victim needs a victimizer, and it could be a transpersonal victimizer, all the way from God to the society, to culture, to institutions, I mean some abstract entity, to my neighbor who's victimizing because yes, the music is too loud, or my children because they don't do their homework. So it's so easy to fall in this mood of, oh, there's nothing I can do. Someone ought to change what is affecting me. And that's the danger. So when Epictetus said, distinguish what's outside of your control and take that as the environment. But then he says, and what is within your control, and that you do. The other day someone was telling me, oh, in my organization, blah, 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 and the organization, and they are not behaving appropriately, and they don't pay very well. So, I just asked them, this person, why don't you leave? Oh, I can't leave. Why can't you leave? There's no slavery. You could quit today. No, but I need the money. Well, it's not convenient to leave. It would be a bad idea for you to leave. You prefer to stay than to leave. Well, yeah. Okay, what are you complaining about? If this is the best thing you've got, then, well, stay there until you find or create a better opportunity. But to stop being resentful. If you want to push back and run the risk that you might get fired for pushing back, I think strategically it would be better if you had an alternative first. So if you find another job, then you can push back and see if you can change things. If you're just going to go on a suicide mission, you better have some other place to jump. Then you can push and see what happens. Who knows? Maybe you'll succeed and it's not a suicide mission. But be aware of the risks. Because if you kick the system will kick you back. But what is not acceptable is for you to stay by choice and then blame the company for not being the way you want it to be. That will sour your life. That will make you miserable. So why do you want to do that? And she won't budge. No, they should be different. I said, okay, well, have your life. I wasn't going to argue. I was trying to help. It was a question in a coaching context. Light. There wasn't really a client. So I wasn't going to push it. But this person was so stuck to the feeling of righteous indignation that she preferred to be miserable and righteously indignant than to find alternatives and relax and keep the composure and think, okay, what's the best I can do? This is the way it is at this point. How do I change it, and how do I protect myself to change it in the best possible manner without suffering unnecessary consequences? That was very low on the list. The uppermost thing is virtue signaling. I'm a good person. I'm going to argue for whatever values I think I'm defending and the company is not. And finally I said, look, imagine I offer you a diet. And you tell me, why should I do a diet if everybody around me is not dieting? Well, if you want to use that everybody else is not dieting to eat shit, go ahead. I have nothing to say. It's your choice. I prefer to eat well for my sake. And when other people don't eat well, I feel sad for them. I feel some compassion. I might invite them. I'd like to be an example of excellence, so they see and they ask, what the hell are you doing? I mean, why do you look energetic, or why do you look younger than your age? And it's not vanity, but it really is more a desire to offer something that then people will ask, and hopefully I can say, okay, this is what you can do too if you eat and exercise and follow a few very minor principles of health discipline, hygiene almost, I would say. That's a choice.
And this relates to something that you often say, what tastes good is not really good for us in some cases. You paraphrase it differently.
I say what tastes good is not always good. And what is good doesn't always taste good. That's the phrase.
And victimhood, it tastes good.
Exactly.
Because you get the support, you don't need to put a lot of effort. It's just like eating junk food, right? It's easy, accessible, and it's fun.
Exactly. Junk food for the soul. There's a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul. This is junk food for the soul. Victimhood is junk food for the soul.
And the way, so if we're talking about the dichotomy of control, so the first question, if we're in a situation and something is off, so the first question would be to ask, is what happened in my control or outside of my control, or what within this situation is in my control, which is how we react and what we do.
The first thing I would say with stoic humility is nothing is off, ever. The world is exactly as it ought to be. I don't like it, but it's not off. Marcus Aurelius, all his books are about that. It's like, quit whining. Things are the way they ought to be. Everything is exactly as it has to be. What are you going to do now? He even uses the boxing match. He says, when you have a problem, don't get upset. Life has given you a sparring partner to practice. And the most fierce sparring partner is the best gift for you to practice even better at a higher level. So even saying things are off has a subtle arrogance. Because I know, it's like saying, I know how the universe ought to be, and it's off. I tell you, I mean, it should be a sunny day and it's raining. Or, there shouldn't be any government intervention and they're intervening. Or, there shouldn't be hateful people and there are. Okay? So that is the way it is. I'm not saying it's perfect, like as opposed to off. It's good. It's beyond good and bad. It is what it is. But this is maybe Shakespeare being a stoic, not a stoic, saying nothing is good and bad, but thinking makes it so. So good and bad are subjective interpretations. They're opinions. Is this good? Is this bad? And they're related to me. So I'd rather recognize this is the way it appears to me. So this seems off to me. Totally okay. And at the same time, it is what it is. It's out of my control. It's the reality that I have to live in. And now what? And that's when I come back to say, what can I control? And at a normal level, or just speaking plainly, I would say, well, I can control my behavior. I can control what I do about it. So what I do is an expression not only of my goals. I want to be effective. So, for example, I want a beach house, and there's no beach house, so I can build one. Okay, I have some land close to the beach. I like a beach house. There is no beach house. One is I can sit down and say God should have created the world with a beach house for me. And the other is to say, well, I can buy one, or I can build one. I can buy the materials, or hire someone to build one. And start planning and doing, and maybe I'll build a beach house. Working and building a beach house for my family and me to enjoy. Fantastic, beautiful, very bourgeois, normal thing. So I can do that. But by building the beach house and allocating resources to build a beach house, I'm also expressing some values. Am I building, what am I building the beach house for? What is the value? As you said, family, for example. So if I'm thinking I want to bring my children to the beach, and I want them to have the opportunity to bring their cousins and have friends and family and create a community that will enjoy some time at the beach, and rather than being all out in the open, have a small place where they can be, and maybe they can stay to sleep, or other people make tents around and they can use the bathrooms. And I just start planning a whole expression of love, family, community, togetherness. That is not necessarily a goal, but is an expression of my value. And the expression of values I call integrity. So everything that is within control in life pursues both the goal of effectiveness. I want to be effective. I want to do it in an economical way. I don't want to spend 10 times what it would take to buy a house. You know, somebody says, I'll ask you 100,000 shekel. No, I want to give you $1 million. It's like, no, you bargain the other way. You want to be you want to conserve resources, because there are infinite desires and values and limited means. So you want to use the means judiciously or economically. And then you also have the goal of integrity. I want to act in alignment with my values. I want to do things that in the very doing, let's just say, I'm building the house, I finish the house, and there's a storm and it destroys the house. So all my goals got dashed. I feel terrible. I feel very disappointed and sad, and that's a absolutely human thing to feel, because I built a house, I wanted something, I spent the resources, I made the effort, and now I lost it. But I would not feel ashamed. I would feel, okay, I did the best to express my love, and nothing is detracted from the expression of love. It's not like my kids are and say, well, because the house burned down, then you didn't love us so much. No, it is completely irrelevant from a spiritual perspective. So when I teach this material to people, I say the objective is always conditional. You're going to play a soccer game and you want to win. And it's okay, you should want to win. That's the goal in soccer, implicit. In any sport, there's an objective where you can win or you can lose. And you need to care without caring, as the Stoics would say. They use the example of archery. You want to hit the target, but you should also not care if you hit the target. And that is conditional because, well, there's another team and they may play better than you, or you may lose.
Or the judge can do something,
yes,
or the referee,
the judge can
or
do something.
Whatever.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Anything can happen. You can lose. So that's always a risky proposition, pursuing your goals. It's a nice risk. It's a good risk if you have, I call it a spiritual harness. So if you're climbing a mountain, a steep mountain, a wall, it's thrilling to climb. I mean, it's now, some people are crazy, I mean, in my mind, crazy, they climb without a harness. Their harness is their skill because they trust themselves. I mean, sometimes they fall, but it's thrilling. For me, I mean, I'm not that good.
No,
so
I just watched the free climbing.
The free climbing, yes.
I was scared just watching.
Yeah. Okay, well, I won't go on a wall, but it's the steep wall that you wouldn't even go up that walking with a harness. So I'm tied. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, you stumble, you fall, you sit in the harness. That's it. So while you pursue your goals and you climb this risky mountain, what is the harness? For me, the harness is the value that I'm expressing, because that will never fail. I can, even if I lose. So if my goal is to win the game, but my value is to play fair. I can always play fair. I can't fail. I mean, I can fail at playing fair, but it's because I chose to play in unfair ways. I choose to cheat. But nobody can make me cheat. Someone can make me lose, but they can't make me cheat. Cheating is something I control, if I do it or not. I literally had one of my employees with a gun to his head, and the thief said, "Open the door of your house." I said, "No. My wife and my daughter are inside. I mean, take the car, take my money, but I'm not opening the door." And the guy the robber took his car and all the money and left. Didn't shoot him. So sometimes people say, "Well, I had a gun to my head, I had to do it." You never have to do it. You don't have to do it. You can choose to do it. And in some circumstances, it's okay, you choose. I mean, if somebody's threatening you, there are a lot of things I would do with a gun to my head. But I asked him, "Why didn't you do it? He could have killed you." And his answer was, "Yeah, he could have killed me. And if he did, probably he would have run. He was outside of the house. And I would have died protecting my wife and daughter, not a bad way to die. But if he was going to kill me outside, what would he have done inside with the three of us?" So that's composure. That's Stoic composure. It's a true story. Happened in Buenos Aires. Unfortunately, it's not a very rare event. The composure and the Stoic spirit of that gesture was unbelievable. And that's what I mean by you cannot betray your values. I mean, you cannot betray your values except by choice. Nobody can make you betray your values.
So I want to start collecting all of the topics because there was a lot here. So one thing is you describe it as also success beyond success. I think these are your words when you talk about even if I lose, if I express my values and I demonstrate my beliefs and what I stand for, then I still win. I still learned. I still kept guard of.
I wouldn't say still win. I say I win at another level. These are two levels. The two things are true. Because this is not a consolation prize. You know, like, no, I lost. I lost, it hurts, it's sad, it's painful, I'm disappointed. All that is true.
Okay.
And at the same time, together with that, I'm proud of myself. I did my best, and I'll strive to do even better, and I learned something, and I've expressed my values. That gives a sense of peace. It's not joy. When you win, you get joy. But when you succeed beyond success, what you get is peace of mind. You get, eudaimonia. Eudaimonia, the expression of happiness, or the word for happiness in Greek, means being in harmony with your highest self, with your daimon. So it's not happy, like, oh, it's my birthday, I got lots of presents, I'm really happy.
Yeah, this is amazing and exciting, so I'm happy.
This is so exciting. I can see the typical American, it's so exciting.
All right.
It's, when you're 5 years old, that's cute. When you're 45, it's very sad. So when you're 45, I think you look for the peace of mind. You don't look for the thrill of, I got a new toy. I mean, it's sad just to see grown-up men and women that behave like teenagers. They never grew up. It's a sad thing.
But what you just said about the beach house is a great example, because a lot of times we're so confused with the money or what we can buy with the money, and not with what is the value and what type of feeling do I want to have in my life. So just like you said, because I think this is the difference between just having a lot of money and being abundant. being abundant means that you know what type of experience you want. I want an experience of safety and freedom, and for my family to have these great type of memories. So this would be a great thing for us, and this is what I'm after. So you're not thinking, is it 200, 2K? You know, you just understand this is what I'm after in type of how I want to enrich my emotional and psychological life. But if you're only after, okay, it's going to cost me 2 million and this is what I need so I can have it as a flag of what I accomplished, these are two different things. Here you have money, here you have an abundant life.
Completely in agreement with that.
So there's so much, many other things to talk about. I think we already touched on the fact that...
I'd like to close a parenthesis.
Yeah. Sorry.
Because I said I was going to bring Stoic philosophy together with non-duality.
Yeah.
The first line of control, so to speak, is my behavior, what I do. But if you really think about it, you can only control your body very partially. So I'd say my body is not totally within my control. If I have a disease, for example, I can't just say, okay, it's mine, it's my body, this is within my sphere of control, so I'm going to heal myself. Of course, you can do things to make it better, but essentially you intervene in your body not very different than you intervene in reality at large. So most of us draw the line between the world and myself at the skin. This is me and this is not me. And up to a point it's reasonable because I can feel things inside my skin and I don't feel things outside of my skin. But there's physiological processes in my body that have absolutely nothing to do with me.
Yeah, I cannot grow my hair faster or my nails.
And I mean, people will say, I digest my food. But you don't digest. Your food gets digested. Nobody says, I beat my heart. So it's a way of speaking, I digest my food, but you don't digest your food. It's not a willful act or an act that it depends on your will, your desire. Or grow your nails or your hair or whatever. So if you start being strict, who am I? So I go, well, I'm not my body. So, okay, I can control my body, but there's I, whoever that is, and that I controls the body. So, okay, who am I? I'm my sensations, like the things I feel inside my body. Well, not quite. I mean, if you sit and you meditate for a little bit, you see the sensations come and go all the time, and you can't control them. You know, you feel hot, or you feel thirsty, or you feel an itch. It's completely automatic. And you can't say, okay, I don't want to itch. No, you have to scratch it. Just like you want a house, you have to build it. You want to stop itching, you have to scratch it. Or you want to not stop being hungry, you need to eat. But you can only influence those things indirectly. So again, let me pull the line a little closer. The sensations are also not me. I am the one that feels the sensations or can indirectly change the sensations. It's okay, the thought. I'm thinking, and I don't want this or I want that, and then I pursue it. So this is me. Yeah, but if I really look at it, most of my thoughts, they are there. I don't think them. I just notice that I'm already thinking them. I'm not thinking now. I'm speaking with you, and it's happening. I'm not premeditating the thought that then will translate into a word that will require the muscles of my. I mean, I'm not. If you ask me, Fred, are you doing that? In a way, yes, but this is.
It's like a stream.
It's like a stream. I'm just flowing with the stream. I'm here, but so my thoughts, they come and go. I'm always there, but my thoughts are not always there. So can I call my thoughts me? Is that an essential part of me? No. Sometimes I say, I try to remember when I was 5 years old. I had no thoughts like now. I mean, all my thoughts are dramatically different. My body was different. My feelings were different. If you show me a picture, are you this one? I say, yes, of course, this is me. This is me when I was 5 years old. I said, but you don't look anything like that. I said, yeah, you're right. I don't look any. I mean, this cute little boy has nothing to do with this monster that you have become, this ugly beast. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what happened to this boy, but you know what? Inside, I feel the same that I felt when I was that little 5-year-old. I mean, I feel me. There's something that I call me,
which is timeless.
It's the same, exactly. It's timeless. It's so timeless that the Buddhists or the Zen monks would ask you, if you want to learn their tradition, show me your original face before your father met your mother. What was your face? Because now you can say, oh, when I was 5 years old, I'm the same person than now. And they say, yeah, what about 5 years before your father met your mother? Were you there? Well, who were you then? It's like, oh, shit. Or to use another Zen koan, who wakes up when you need to pee at night and you're totally unconscious and you're not there? You're in deep sleep. There's nothing going on, and suddenly you wake up because you need to pee. Something, whatever that is, let's call it core subjectivity, was aware. Awareness was present in a non-self-aware manner, because you're not aware of yourself. I'm asleep, deep sleep, no dream, no nothing. I mean, just like a rock. And then in the middle, like a rock, you wake up. Hopefully, I mean, at some point in life, you didn't wake up and you feed on yourself. And then we learn. How do we learn? How does a child learn to wake up to pee? I mean, it's very mysterious, because there's no. It looks like there's no consciousness. But as the teachers say, it's different to have absence of awareness than awareness of absence. So even in deep sleep, there's an awareness of absence, because that is the awareness that feels the need to pee, or it's time to get up, or listen to your alarm clock. What hears the alarm clock? Something is there ready to be awakened.
Even more than that, sometimes when we need to wake up early the next day because something super important is happening, you can wake up 2 minutes before the alarm clock.
Absolutely.
Something wakes you up and knows, hey, it's time to wake up.
Exactly. You can program yourself to wake up at a certain time. You just think hard, and then you'll wake up. It's not that difficult to do. So now if we go back to the question, who is me? Who am I?
The person that needs to pee in the middle of the night?
Well, it's not even that person, because that, whatever that is that wakes up at night as me, when the moment I wake up, it's me. My first thought is, I'm aware that I'm aware and that I am me. But before, I'm not even aware of that. There's just awareness with no content, like a quantum field without vibration. There are no particles, there's no waves, but there's a quantum field. The quantum field is posited to be there, and it's absolutely unmanifest. And out of that quantum field, everything emerges as a vibration of that field. I don't want to get too deep, but that is technically correct.
All I'm imagining right now is that when we wake up and there's pure consciousness, and then suddenly we wake up, like the...
Pure consciousness wakes up, not we. Pure consciousness wakes up as we. Just like in a dream, you say, I dreamed that I was flying over Israel, and I was watching the deserts and the sea and all that. I mean, you could tell that dream. It's logical to say that. But the truth is, you were not flying. I mean, your avatar was flying. You're dreaming in your bed. You're sleeping. But it's your avatar. And it wasn't Israel. It was you. Because it's your dream. So everything is made of dream stuff, and it's all you.
So we're gonna shift from Stoic philosophy to living in a simulation, like.
Well, I mean, but this is a question: what is within your control? Who is the you that controls? It's a very profound question. I'm not going to answer, but for those who are interested in Stoic philosophy, I just wanted to push the envelope. What is the notion of personhood that underlies even this basic division between under my control? Who's the me that says this is under my control? And if you want, I'll be happy to give you some references to see how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I'd love that.
You can put them in the show notes afterwards.
I know I'll do it.
You have some references from the program.
No, but also like I know that you're a fan of the Matrix. For me, it was also transformational, and ever since, like I'm a red pill person, and this is something like the more I explore it, the more I hear about it, it becomes almost impossible to imagine that life is what we think it is, or that this is base reality. Like you see here mathematicians, you hear philosophers, you see everything that's happening, and it's like, okay, I'm not sure what type of a game this is and why I chose this specific game, but let's enjoy it. And you know, it leads me to another topic that is related to the Stoic philosophy, which is one of the mantras that I really like is memento mori. There's something very grounding in it, and also something almost playful, because when you understand that, you know, you will eventually die, life will end, and you have this limited time in this playground, and what are you going to do about it? So I wanted to know, is it a principle or a mantra that you contemplate on?
Yes, very much so. This is one of those Stoic things that I followed without knowing it was a Stoic thing. I actually got it from a Zen also, because they have a saying that goes, die before you die so you can truly live. And that means be aware of your own mortality and then choose what you do with the time that you have. But don't live to avoid death, because that's fruitless. You know you're doomed. But contemplate very coolly that you have a limited time. So it's not a scary thought. It's not, as you say, it's almost playful. It's not, oh, I don't want to think about death. Yes.
Like originally, I experienced it as something morbid a little bit, because it sounds like, remember that you will die. But
yes, remember you will die. You know, repent. Come back to the straight and narrow path, or you will burn in hell forever. No, that's not what it means. It means, well, remember you're mortal. Remember. So now what are you going to do? And everything becomes a little lighter. It would be like saying, remember, it's a game. An analogy I used the other day is, it's very different to live in a nightmare where monsters are chasing you, or to play Pac-Man, where there's a similar story, the monsters are chasing you, but now the you that is being chased by monsters is not the real you. There's something more. So for me, I combine the two ideas of memento moris. Remember that there's something in me that is going to die. A certain personality, a character. Just like an avatar in the dream dies when you wake up. But it's not very tragic. You don't think very much, oh, what happened to that guy that was flying over Israel? I wonder if he landed or crashed. I mean, you have this dream, you wake up, and then you go about your day, and you don't grieve for the poor flyer who I left there and what happened. Okay, it's a story that has no end, but it doesn't matter. So it is taking some of the seriousness out of life and creating some freedom to see, what if this were a place to express your values? What if you could dream? Alan Watts has a beautiful talk where he says, if you could dream any dream you wanted, what would you do? What would you do if you could dream anything that you wanted to? I wonder, what would you do if you could dream anything that you wanted to? And he said, and for years you would have incredible pleasure, and all the women, and the riches, and the fame, and the power. And then you probably get tired. And, every night would be like living 80 years. How many lives would you want to live in the middle of orgiastic pleasure? After a year of doing that, you'd probably get old. Probably much faster than a year. More like a week. And then you say, I want some adventure. And then you would go and you fight dragons and enemies and you kill and you were always the victor. And then you wonder, well, I don't want to be sure I win. I want some excitement. You know, this idea I always win is getting boring because I win every night. You know, how many lives can you be victorious? Then you want some excitement that it's a real challenge and you want to fight, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And you say, I wonder how it feels like losing. Okay, I want to lose. I want to lose. I want to feel that. I want to see what does it feel to get killed. And it's like people going to see horror movies. Why would you pay to see a horror movie? Well, because it's a movie. You would never pay to be in a horror movie. I guarantee nobody would pay to be in a horror movie. But if you think it's a movie and you can even have a certain enjoyment of being safe while all these tragic things are happening and you're vicariously feeling them. So if you can find this sense of separation, that I'm this personality, I'm this character, I'm this body, I'm this mind, I am this. I mean, there's a way in which this is like the costume that I brought to this costume party. And it's not trivial. It's important, it's meaningful. That I chose this costume. And I'm not. I can take it off and I'm still be me, the one that hasn't waken up to pee yet. But that me doesn't have a gender, doesn't have an age, was never born, never dies. It's just there, like the ocean. The ocean can have waves, but the waves are not different than the ocean. The waves are only the ocean in movement. So you could say, what happens to the wave when it hits the shore? Where does it go? Well, that's a wrong question. The wave doesn't go anywhere because the wave never was. The wave is not a thing. The wave is a verb. It's the ocean waving. Well, what if there's something that waves like humans? It waves like life. It waves like everything, like life. And the reality. You could say, what is the matrix? I'm not talking about the science fiction matrix as this is a simulation. This is not what Elon Musk says. I think it's ridiculous. But there's something as a quantum field, which I call consciousness, which does wave. So then the memento mori takes these two meanings. Is remember you're going to die and you have a limited time to express your values. Because that's the only thing that is going to allow you to die in peace and find this happiness, which is the eudaimonia. And also, if you can, remember that you're not you. You're not who you think you are. You're not that face that you see in the mirror, because that face is changing every day. And over the years, you see it clearly. That just look for a picture of you as a baby. But it was you, and it is you now, and it will be you in 10 years. So then, remember you're going to die means something very different. Remember that the costume that you brought to this party is for a limited time only, has an expiration date. And then you turn into a pumpkin. You have to go back home before midnight, or you will turn into whatever you were before, the Cinderella story. So that is a very powerful way to engage in a reality that is, as you said, at times very ominous, with lots of very problematic things, hurtful things, horrible things that happen. It's not that you feel less, you feel more, but you feel more with more room around. It expands the space in which you can feel. So even though you feel more, it takes up a smaller percentage of who you are, because you're infinite. You grow without bounds, and then more grief fits into you. This is not callous, and this is not uncompassionate. So that's the mystery.
I really like your perspective on that. For me, a lot of times I see it as something that helps me to tame the ego, when things go really good or when things go really bad, because it's just an illustration of, eventually you're going to die, everybody's going to die. So don't let that drag you down too much, or don't let that get into your head. It's not yours. So, and it's going to be so short. Nobody's going to remember that in even in 2 years, a lot of the things that we do. Just put things into perspective and help me focus on the simple stuff. And also on the other side, understanding that I am mortal and everybody around me are mortal helps me appreciate the smaller things and the simple, not smaller things actually, it's not smaller things, it's more like the day-to-day things that I can usually ignore, like saying good night to my kids or going to school with them. Don't want to get into a dramatic, but we never know what's going to happen.
Totally.
You can go to work, you come back, you don't know what's going to happen to you, to someone else. And a lot of time people regret, oh, how could I said this to them at the last time I saw them? We never know what is the last time we're going to see anyone. And memento mori for me, it's like you never know. So it also helps me on understanding what do I appreciate and how do I feel gratitude for everything that I have.
Yes. So that's a very important practice, is how would you behave if this was going to be the last time you saw this person? Death leaves no time for bullshit. If you knew that at the end of this conversation you were going to die, how would you have the conversation? I sometimes ask people in my programs to say, imagine that this session or this day is the last day, but you can't change what you do. Some evil genie came and said, I'm going to let you know, I have a secret to tell you. This is your last day. But if you change anything in your calendar, anything you plan to do, 1 minute, then you'll be dead instantly. So you just have to go through your day doing exactly the things that you had planned to do, no matter how trivial, and you cannot reorganize your day. What you do during those times, it's up to you. How would you live through that experience? Everything would be a miracle. Everything would be the last chance, the last opportunity to express your value, to show care, to show love. Washing the dishes with your wife would be the ultimate thing, and you would be weeping inside. You couldn't tell her, you can't say to other people. You just go through your day. But you know that when you go to sleep, you'll never wake up again. Now life, I guarantee that day would be very different. Well, the news is you probably won't know when is your last day. Some people do. I mean, you can get old and sick and frail. I hope I'll be like that. But a lot of people that died suddenly, they didn't know. 5 minutes before, they didn't know. So, is there any conversation that you would regret not having if you died 5 minutes from now? And if there is, have it. And call the person now and say, someone asked me, even if you're listening to this podcast, someone asked me, is there a conversation I would regret not having if I died in 5 minutes? This crazy guy in a podcast said that. And I listened to the podcast, and I said, shit, I would really regret not saying to you, blah, 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 I love you, or I'm sorry, or I forgive you. Do it. Why not? The other person will be shocked, but then you can relax, because if you die 5 minutes later, you'll be done. You won't be regretting that one. And if there's another, guess what? You can do it again. You can do it again. So one mantra that I suggested to my dying mother to keep in mind is no resentment, no remorse. So if you have remorse, apologize. If you have resentment, forgive. And for her, it's not theoretical. She's dying. But she's stuck in many ways. I mean, she's still trying to let go and forgive, and old sorrows and old pains and all that. So it's not an easy thing to do as a discipline, to die without resentment and without regrets.
Powerful stuff, for sure. I want to talk. I think maybe the first context that I heard about you is the concept of leadership, which is maybe present or in an undercurrent in our entire conversation, because a lot of these things correlate to how we lead our lives and how we lead others. But I really want to talk about Stoic philosophy and leadership together, and ask you, how do you see this relationship?
Well, I define leadership as eliciting or inspiring the internal commitment of others to pursue a mission.
So let's break it down a little bit.
Yes.
So what does it mean, the internal commitment of others?
Yes. If I say, read, or I'll take the computer away to my kids, I'm eliciting obedience, compliance, not commitment. Because they'll do it out of fear. They'll do it out of the threat that I made, which is I'll take away something they care. I can get them to read. That's management. Carrots and sticks. I could pay them $1 a page if they read too. That's also compliance. Nicer compliance, but it's still compliance. I'm trying to buy their behavior. Leadership is about love. You can't buy love. Leadership is about commitment. I don't want them to read. I want them to want to read. And you cannot pay for someone to want to read. You cannot threaten someone to want to read. It doesn't work. So what can you do? Well, you have to inspire the other person. And that's what I mean by eliciting the internal commitment. You read because you want. And now, so how do you do that? Well, I'd say two main strategies. The first is what's in it for you. Why would I believe, or why do I believe it will enhance your life? So it's an offer. And second, what's in it for me, which is I'll show you with my behavior and my life what it has done for me. So being an example of the value that you're trying to communicate, I call it an example of excellence. It's a way to shine out an invitation to other people. That's what I mentioned before. You know, if I eat healthy and I exercise and I take care of myself and I radiate a certain atmosphere of peace and health and stability and clarity of mind, other people will look and say, I want to be like that. I want to be like that in a good way, not with sycophantic admiration, but with a real recognition. That's a model of what I could be, and that's available for me. How do I know? Because there's a guy that's just like me or worse, and if he can do it, I can do it too. So, you know, there's nothing magical this person. So I don't like the superheroes, because the notion of the superhero is that there's some special power, something really unique, something that would prevent a normal person from being the superhero. And it's gifted. It's something that comes from the outside. I teach another program where I say superheroes don't have super values, but superpowers, but super values. So I think a super value is something you achieve. And you don't need you don't need to be bitten by a radioactive spider to have super values, or come from Krypton, or whatever, fly like a bat. You're just you, conscious, better. So leadership is inspiring people to be their best, to be in harmony with their highest self, to achieve eudaimonia, to connect with their highest aspiration of what they could be, and then enact it in life. It's quite simple.
Yet for me at least, something that I see less and less in the recent years. And I think specifically, if I look at really these current days where the market, the stock market is shrinking a little bit, everything is turbulent, and I see how a lot of companies, especially in the high-tech area here in Israel, they need to deal with this new situation, and stress and what it brings out of other people is more similar to what you described as management and less as leadership. This is my personal experience from what I see in the sphere, and I can understand why it's happening, but at the same time, I really understand that what people need right now in this uncertainty is this leadership that you described. Like, remind me, why are we here as a leader, and don't shout at me because this was not the results that we delivered.
Yes. I mean, you can get some results through compliance, even coercion. But you're never going to get the best out of people. The best is freely given. You can't buy it. You can't coerce it out of them. You can't threaten it. The best is only deserved. How do you deserve the best? By becoming someone who deserves the best. And then demanding it and helping other people. And it's a long story. I wrote a whole book about it. But the essence is that, are you the person that deserves the best? Are you the one that deserves the best from your children, from your wife, from your community? What does it take to deserve the best? And I think the biggest, I don't know even how to name it, is so dark, the corrupt, the biggest black hole that is going to eat the world is the lust for the unearned and undeserved, the entitlement to, I have a right to this. I don't have to deserve it. I don't have to earn it. I have a right to your life. I have a right to your love. I have a right to you doing what I tell you to do. I am your father, Luke. Being your father doesn't give you any right. Yes, you are the father, but that doesn't give you the right to get the best of your children. They have to love you. And you have to earn the love. You have to take care of them, love them back, teach them how to love. I mean, it's very hard. But if you say, well, they're my children, they should obey me. They should do what I say. They should honor me as the father. Okay, well, you're going to get what you're going to get. My wife, oh, now I'm married. She needs to do what I tell her to do. I'm the man. Or she could say, well, I'm his wife. He should do what I tell him to do. I'm the wife. I said, yes. Yeah, you can get something like that. But then, I'm entitled. The government should give me money. Why? Because I'm me. Because I'm doing something so important. I deserve the money. And where does the money come from? It doesn't matter. I deserve the money. Well, the government is taking it by force from other people. Oh, I still deserve it. It doesn't matter. God told me I'm deserving this.
So you see entitlement as one of the darkest human...
It's the black hole that will eat the world. Entitlement, victimhood breeds violence, always. When you're entitled and you don't get what you think you're entitled to, you feel victimized and taken from other people, and then you feel the righteous indignation that enables you to attack them and steal from them, kill them. I don't know. Is there any organization more fascist than Antifa? Why? They're killing baby Hitler everywhere. Because a fascist is there. Censorship is the entitlement. Nobody has the right to offend me. So I'm going to cancel you, deplatform you, take away your bank accounts. I'm entitled to do that. You can't offend me. You can't offend anybody. Victimhood is the biggest industry because it links to the most corrupt part of the soul. I don't need to earn anything. Others have to give it to me, or I have the right to take it.
So going back to leadership and connecting connecting it with Stoic philosophy. We talked about a lot about Stoic philosophy, some of the leading mantras. There's also the 4 virtues of Stoicism, which, because this entire conversation, I think a lot of it was about what is in our control and how will we express our best selves using values. Maybe I'm paraphrasing it in my own words. And eventually there's like the 4 Stoic virtues, which is, I think, justice, courage, moderation. I'm lacking one.
I don't know. I was going to say, you have to remind me which ones are.
But I think, but let's go back to your perspective about it. You train leaders, you work with leaders, so let's not be theoretical. How do you see this perspective of Stoic philosophy in your trainings of other people, mentoring?
Well, I would say moral excellence. Stoicism for me is moral excellence, and the values that I hold dear are truth, justice, love, and freedom.
These are all, or some of them are very complex, because truth. Whose truth? It's something that is very hard to understand.
Yes, it's very hard, but that's not an excuse not to have it. So I could say, I long for a world without murder. And you say, oh, that's very hard. There always were murders, and probably there always will be murders. Yes, but so what? I still want a world without murder. I would like a world where people don't get murdered, and I'm going to work for it. So, do we know the truth? No, but what's the alternative if not seek for it? And there's a difference between thinking that, a wall is made of chocolate cake or of bricks. If you think a wall is made of chocolate cake and you try to eat it, you're going to have a hard encounter with truth. When you have no teeth, or you're going to run into a chocolate cake wall and kill yourself. So no, it's not the arrogance of saying I know the truth, but it's the commitment to approximating it as best we can, and approximating justice as best we can. Will there ever be a world without any injustice? Probably not. But calling what's not just unjust is, as the Greek philosopher said, philosophy starts by calling things by their true name. So it's calling things by their true name. Something is free or unfree. And those are, I think, living in alignment with those values makes for a good life.
I totally agree, and at the same time, I'm trying to translate what like moral excellence, and especially when I'm not talking about, like, let's say, social leaders or even political leaders, I'm talking about corporate leaders, and trying to understand how.
Okay, I'll tell you a mantra of one of my teachers, Chris Argyris, which really impressed me. He was a professor at Harvard. I had the privilege of studying with him when I was teaching at MIT. He said over and over, free and informed choice. Give people free and informed choice. So tell the truth. Give people the information and let them choose. If they want to, then make a deal. And if it's not good for them, then don't make a deal. They can walk away. But don't deceive them. Don't coerce them. Respect their freedom. Respect their intelligence. Explain to them. Take care of their objections if you can. That's it. Free and informed choice. That's such a simple thing, and it's so rare in business. Everybody's trying to manipulate everybody else. This is the exact opposite. No manipulation. What you see is what you get. I'm offering this. Again, like Neo with Morpheus. When Morpheus says, I'm not promising you any, the only thing I promise is nothing but the truth.
Yeah. All I'm offering is the truth.
All I'm offering is the truth. You want the red pill? All I'm offering is the truth. That's it. It's up to you. Want the blue pill? You wake up tomorrow, you think whatever you want to think.
Sometimes I'm so surprised by the contrast between how simple things could be. It's very simple. Just inform people and give them the freedom to choose. And at the same time, we're so used to sugarcoat, to manipulate, to go around things, to not be honest, to...
Yes, well, if you want effectiveness more than integrity, you will manipulate people.
Yeah.
Because it's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot better to have a slave or a drone than to have a human being you have to deal with. So the temptation to manipulate is always there. It's convenient. It's effective. It's not ethical. It doesn't have integrity. So what are you going to choose? To be effective or to have integrity? Because this key person that you need in your team may not want to work for you unless you lie. But that's not an excuse to lie, at least not to me. But for most people it is. Oh, I had to lie. Otherwise he wouldn't have bought. I mean, if I didn't tell this lie to a customer, he would have walked away. What? What is that argument? That's an argument that says effectiveness is more important than integrity. That's really what the person is saying. In my hierarchy, I'd rather be an effective criminal than an honest failure. Well, you have to choose. If you get to that point, would you rather fail honestly or succeed cheating, dishonestly? When you look at the world, you see where most of humanity chooses. That's the corruption.
I cannot share or post my moral excellence on Instagram, and I will not get so many likes on that. But on the other side, if I close this deal and I'll take this money, go to vacation, and then I'll say, hey, I'm the best salesman.
Take the selfie.
Yeah, with my new car.
Yes.
So it's much more rewarding.
Skiing in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And then you'll see
You do the right thing. Nobody would shake your hand and tell you, Fred, we've seen what you've done, Shlomi. That's moral excellence, and let's give you 1,000 likes. But so there's like no reward sometimes for the hard part. It's not that there is no reward, because as you said at the beginning, you feel good with
who's
yourself.
Your audience? And the only audience that will reward you is God. So if you're playing for the crowd and you want likes, then you will go the way of the devil. I mean, I have to use religious imagery. The only one that will allow you not to go that way, when you have an archetype of excellence, whatever religion you're from, but this divine presence that is omniscient. Why? Because it's you. It's inside you. You know what you're doing. And hell is a real place. And it happens when you start disengaging from your mind and you go into this dream state. So just like you can have a nightmare, you can have a very long nightmare after you get lots of likes in a dishonest manner.
Such a great reminder, because to how much everything that we're talking about, Stoic philosophy in this day and age, and staying connected with who we are, our values, moral excellence, in everything that we do, because this talk was about leadership, about family, about society, about our community, and also understanding, like, it all ties together. I felt like we were all over the place in some parts, but eventually it all ties together. And I think one of the sentences, what tastes good is not always good. And I think this is a thread that is somehow connected to everything that we talked about. Before we wrap up, because I feel like this could be like a 3-4 hours podcast. But before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to share on any of the topics that we talked so far?
Maybe I'll finish with this elaboration about this mantra: what tastes good is not always good. And just look at the world. Look at the people around you. How many people you see that are really happy, that are really at peace, they're really content with their lives, with their futures. And they have this unshakable contentment and peace of mind. Not the one that depends on the vagaries of the environment. How many? Well, most people are eating junk food for the soul. It's time to start the diet. And you need a nutritional manual. The Stoics are presenting one. nutrition for the soul.
So this was a great way to end up our conversation, Fred. I want to thank you again for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure, and looking at the Stoic philosophy with your perspective was enriching and nutritious for my soul. So I really want to thank you for this soup that we created together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.